What name is on your birth certificate? Is that the name you actually walk in? What is the one label someone gave you once that you have never been able to fully put down? There is a woman in scripture who lived under a label for her entire recorded life. And I need you to watch what God did with it before you decide your label gets the final word on you. Her name was Rahab. Scripture introduces her one way, a harlot, living in the walls of Jericho. That is the line every account of her opens with. Not her courage, not her faith, that word, harlot. Two spies came into the city to scout it out, and they end up in her house. The king finds out and sends men to her door, demanding she hand them over. She lies to protect them, hides them on the stalks of flax on her roof, and sends the king's men on a false trail. Then she says something that tells you exactly who she has become. Underneath the label that she was carrying, she said to them in Joshua chapter 2, verse 9 to 11, says, I know that the Lord has given you the land, and that the fear of you has fallen on us. For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and on the earth beneath. A woman in Jericho, outside the covenant, with no reason to know the God of Israel at all, is speaking with more clarity about who he is than most of the people who claim him. That is not the theology of a woman defined by one chapter. That is the theology of a woman who had already met God before Israel ever knocked on her door. But watch how long the label stays attached to her name anyway. Joshua 6 calls her Rahab the harlot, after the walls have already fallen, after she had already been spared. And then Hebrews 11 calls her Rahab the harlot, centuries later, in the same breath as Abraham and Moses, still listing her by the one word Jericho gave her. James in the New Testament calls her Rahab the harlot too, holding her up as the proof that real faith produces real action. God never asked anyone to stop calling her that. He simply kept building on top of it. Do not name your whole life by one chapter. Watch what he was doing with hers while everyone else kept repeating it. And this brings me to the story of Jabez that we have in the book of Chronicles when he prayed that well-known, we call it the prayer of Jabez. His name means pain. His mother named him Pain after her own pain that she was experiencing. Nothing to do with him, but she labeled him that. And after a while, as a grown man, he had enough of it. And he called out to the God of Jacob and he said, oh, that you would bless me indeed. And he went on to state how he wanted this blessing. And it ended with the verse saying, and God granted him his request. That meant God blessed the socks off of this man. He never changed his name, but the blessing was so large that it overrided the name that he was called. And it's the same here with Rahab. Her name, the harlot, was inconsequential. Listen to this. Rahab marries a man named Salmon. They have a son named Boaz, the same Boaz who became Ruth's kinsman redeemer. You can find that in the book of Ruth. Their line continues through Obed, through Jesse, through David. Matthew in the New Testament opens with the genealogy of Jesus Christ, and Rahab's name is written directly into it. The label that never left her lips in scripture is sitting there 3 verses away from the birth of the Messiah. She carried the word harlot her whole recorded life. It never once carried the final verdict on hers. That is what I need you to receive today. Whatever chapter people keep repeating about you, whatever word you got attached to your name once and has followed you into every room since, it does not get to write the rest of your book. God does not usually erase the label. He builds the rest of your story so large around it that the label becomes the smallest true thing about you anyone can see. So tell me, what has followed you into every room? What word do people still say about you underneath their breath or to your face that you have started to answer to as if it's the whole truth about who you are? It was never the whole truth. It was just one chapter. Not everything you believe about yourself came from God. Some of it was handed to you by people who only ever saw you in your worst moments and never once watched what God did after that. I think of my grandfather when I was in my early teens, and he used to call me sourpuss. Oh, every time he sourpuss, sourpuss. Unfortunately, he never lived to see the woman that I have become, and I'm surely not sourpuss. And so the world does, the family, friends, they label you at the worst time, and years later they still want to refer back to you as that person. And when you have already evolved, you're being transformed by the power of God. So if you are done carrying the name someone else gave you, write it in the comments. I'm listening. And so I want to invite you to continue in this conversation, in this series, the story that you live from, that has resonated, something that you heard resonated with you, and you want to make a comment about that. And please do join me for the next video as we continue in this journey. Again, if you'd like to subscribe and share this video with your friends, someone might need to hear this message. So be sure to do that. Like and subscribe and keep following in this playlist as we continue the journey, the story that you live from. God bless you.